President Nunes, trustees, faculty, students, parents, distinguished guests. I'm really happy to be here. It's nice. He kind of took my whole speech, but so forgive me if I'm a little redundant. You know, when I was asked to give this address, I called President Nunes to ask why me. He said he enjoyed an interview that I gave and when I spoke about acting, and he suggested I could talk about what has developed and sustained me through 40 years of career both above and below ground. I've always been inspired by visual arts and design. Like you, I make things. I think of myself as an artist. Now, maybe you're wondering, where does a guy who played the Green Goblin and Spider-Man get off calling himself an artist? It's a good question. All started, I first performed in a community theater at the age of 11. Later, I was expelled from high school and went to college early but never finished, largely because I was eager to get working and wanted to start acting in plays. At 19, I started performing with Theater X, a small avant-garde theater in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But after 2 years, I couldn't resist the siren call of New York City. So I moved there in 1977. Jimmy Carter was president, and in the city, it was the summer of Son of Sam, blackouts, and punk rock. I was fresh off the bus, fully intending to pursue work in the commercial theater. But once I got settled, I found myself drawn to downtown loft performances and what was then called experimental theater. I was ambitious, I wanted a career, but kept being drawn to this no-career community, where, for the most part, it was untrained people making homemade shows. It was a time where dancers were making films, actors were painting, visual artists were performing, and everybody was making music. There was an amateur, do-it-yourself aesthetic that wasn't pursuing recognition or acceptance outside of a certain social circle. Often, the works were sloppy, incomprehensible, lazy, obtuse, and truly just bad. These people weren't careerists. There was no career to be had in these forms. Most they could hope for to parlay the success into was the status to sleep with more attractive people in the downtown scene. But there was something there in some of the work that exhibited extraordinary personal commitment, emotion, and abandon I had not seen elsewhere. For me, these qualities trumped all training and technique. The downtown performance scene was more alive, compelling, and relevant than anything going on in the galleries, theaters, and concert halls of elsewhere. I wanted to do what they were doing, but with more rigor, with a more disciplined approach. I married this newfound appreciation of the amateur aesthetic with a passion I had but couldn't yet articulate. I started to make theater with like-minded friends. I found a company, the Wooster Group, whose work I admired, and implicated myself into the group in order to find out what it was that I loved and to get near it. Then I began to practice. I learned that action breeds inspiration, not the other way around. I found a spark, and I spent almost 30 years with these people, feeding it daily. It was a home and a community where I could try and fail. Virtuosity wasn't necessarily the goal. The best was an enemy of the good. Often we would create performances during the day and then at night perform them as works in progress, certainly failing more than flying. We were so busy working and surviving, we didn't think too much of the reception of our work, which was often so bad that we decided to ban critics from our performances. In time, we toured abroad and started to acquire a following and good critical approval that led to appreciation, finally, here in the United States as well. The Wooster Group was my school, and my colleagues were my teachers. To this day, I tend to choose projects primarily based on whom the director is or the collaborators are, rather than the material of the proposed project. In 1979, after being fired from a small role in the ill-fated movie Heaven's Gate, that's a story in itself, I was seen by a young Catherine Bigelow in a performance at our theater space and was given the leading role in her first feature film, The Loveless. You blew my thing, but here, the producer of that film was a certain Grafton Nunes, who of course went to bigger and better things. But this really marked the beginning of my film career. I tell you this narrative not as a nostalgic, pull myself up my bootstraps kind of story, but really just as a way to describe how I created a profession and my own work, how I went from student to professional, making a living and having a life. What is my work in its essence? Primitively speaking, it's coming into a space, bringing objects, color, sound, text, clothes, light, body, and voice, and making, ordering, designing an event that's performed. An event that in every show, in every take, must be reanimated. I am Dr. Frankenstein, and I am the monster. This is my life. Whether I'm doing a big-budget tentpole movie or a no-budget improvised Abel Ferrara film, an abstract chamber theater play with Richard Foreman, or an operatic Robert Wilson movement piece with Baryshnikov, a mocap performance for a video game, or even a Snickers commercial. It's all making, problem solving, and doing. For me, it almost becomes a spiritual practice, a job, a function that's always evolving and challenging. The target is always moving. Every time I approach a new project, the preparation, expectation, and process are different, which creates a feeling that it's for the first time. I can't help but approach the work with a beginner's mind, and I continually live with the sweet terror of trying to figure things out from uncertainty. Yet, I am also always comforted by the sense that I've been in this situation before, and I have a body memory and an instinct from previous experiences that will guide me. It's a game I play with myself to keep flexible, curious, and open. The quality of being there determines being present to receive what's in the air. This is my constant aspiration. I'm proud to be here. Yeah. As a Midwesterner, I have a special affection for Cleveland. I've shot 2 movies here and had the pleasure of speaking as part of a retrospective at the impressive Cinematheque. I toured your campus and visited students in their studios and admired their work. Frankly, I'm envious, not only of your youth, but also the education and range of possibilities of study you've been offered here. I can only imagine how you feel finishing your time here and transitioning to take your work into the professional world. It's an exciting time in the art and design world. Thanks to the range of new technologies, the making of art is more available, egalitarian, allowing new languages, platforms, and approaches to be created. On the other hand, the struggle for balance between commerce and art has intensified, and the explosion of the information age has created a society of people who know how to relate to their phones better than people, and where most modes of communication seem to be hijacked to sell things. As you leave school and look for a job, pursue a career, seek recognition or fame or wealth, or whatever rattles your cage, it will come or it will not. The one thing you can control is your ability to practice and develop your work in whatever ways available. My mantra for you is, the work itself is what will sustain you. I wish you all all the fortune and success you can stand in whatever form you want. And again, thank you so much. Congratulations.